Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are live for another edition of NASCAR 06 Total Team Control on the channel. This evening, Busch Series racing at the Lowe's Motor Speedway, of course now known as Charlotte and Concord, Carolina, just outside of course, Charlotte, North Carolina. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into tonight's full race live stream realistic commentary coverage on the video game side of things in our Do It For Dale Busch Series race. 5 more races left on the season, this full season points format, and Dale Jr. still second in the standings trying to chase Clint Bowyer. And no matter what happens today, Clint Bowyer will still have the points lead going into next week's action by the time we get to the 4th to last race of the year, because he has a 181-point lead over Dale Earnhardt Jr., which is over 1 full race worth of points. You can score as many as 190 points in a single race if you lead the most laps and win the race under this points format in 2005. But because Clint Bowyer can't get outscored by that many points in one race, if he just starts the race, which obviously he's going to start every race because he's a Busch Series regular, if he starts every race, then we can only outscore by as much as 156 points in one race. So no matter what, Bowyer's going to have the points lead today, but hopefully Dale Jr. can start to narrow it. Whenever he seems to cut into the points lead, Clint Bowyer's still getting good finishes. Bowyer's only DNF'd twice this season through 30 races. Dale Jr.'s only DNF'd a couple times himself. But it's just it's crazy how much more consistent Clint Bowyer has been this season. Dale Jr. has 2 more wins than him as of right now. But just for instance, Dale Jr.'s average finish is a 12.3. He has scored 7th. Obviously he finished 9th at Kansas last night. But in the last 11 races, he has finished in the top 10 times in the last 11 races. He's finished inside the top 10, recounting here, 13 times in the last 16 races. So 13 top 10s in the last 16 races for Dale Jr. He's on a pretty good hot streak right now, but still unable to really close that gap on Clint Bowyer. It's just a testament to how good that 2 car has been so far this year. But it's time for Dale Jr. to try and nab the pole today. He was quickest in qualifying through 22 cars prior to me starting this stream. Or sorry, quickest in practice out of 22 cars prior to me starting this stream. I think he's still top of the charts now after, man, we've got quite a few more. It looks like 33 drivers that made a lap in practice. So Dale Jr. is looking pretty quick this weekend. He did finish 6th at Charlotte earlier this season. We'll see if he can get that first win on a 1.5 mile in the Busch Series season. And of course, again, going to start off with qualifying. You'll see the tracker down at the bottom of the screen. We've got the Oreo Ritz paint scheme back for today's race for Dale Jr., hence the thumbnail. And we'll see if Dale Earnhardt Jr. can win today's race somehow, some way. I will say the car is a bit on the loose side. Got to be careful not to clip that apron. Charlotte is the most narrow 1.5 mile circuit track on the circuit in 2005. And remember, in the 2005 season, this is when the track was grained. So this track in general, very, very hard to handle. One of the more difficult tracks on this game. And in my personal opinion, probably the most difficult 1.5 miles on this game. So hard not to hit that apron. I'm probably going to hit it a few times. I'm just going to hope I don't wreck every single time I hit it. Pretty good lap going, though. So far through turns 1 and 2. 3 and 4 seems to be the trickier of the 2 corners on the racetrack. Though through 3 and 4 in qualifying, Dale Jr. looking pretty good on lap 1. Great lap going for him. Pushed a bit wide off the exit of turn 4. It's not going to be a pole time. He's going to be 3rd quickest, 30.731. We'll see if he can pick up on lap 2. He got a little loose that time. He clipped the apron. That's going to scrub some time off. He was trying to get as close to the apron as he could without touching it. It just grabbed and pulled that race car to the left off the exit of the corner. It's going to be tough to get the pole now with that little bit of a mistake. A little better through 3 and 4. Compared to the lap before, but 1 and 2 was a bit back, and lap 1 was the quicker of the 2 laps. So 3rd fastest for Dale Jr. Now, More drivers have won from the third starting position than any other starting position at Charlotte in the Xfinity Series. So, Dale Jr. does have that going for him tonight. We'll see how this is all going to work out. Davey Chumler, Noah Hall, Corey Freet, Patrick Shadley, Derek Booth, and others, thanks for tuning into the stream here tonight. Honestly, might have to rattle Boyer's cage today. Well, we'll see. He starts on the outside of row 2 alongside Dale Jr., and the pole sitter for today's race will be Ryan Newman. The Rocket Man scored another pole, this time in the Busch Series. Green flag is in the air. We're underway at Charlotte. Dale Jr. getting the jump off the start, trying to go 3 wide to the lead. He's going to overtake the pole sitter, Ryan Newman, and he's going to not quite get alongside and make the pass on Mark Martin. He's trying to side draft the 9 car off of turn 2. What a launch off the start by Dale Jr. We usually don't see that out of the 81. And he's going to drive it in too hard, and he's in the wall. Big wreck. Boyer's around. Oh my goodness, he went for it all on the first lap, and that was probably not a wise decision, and we got a massive size pile up in turns 3 and 4. Clint Boyer went for a wild ride. Couple hard hits for him. Climbed up over the rear bumper of the 81 car, who was sitting sideways in the middle of the corner. And we've got a bunch of cleanup after our lap 1 caution today. So aggressive after getting such a great launch off the start. And it went horrible in a hurry for Dale Jr. 7.2 seconds of damage already after that lap 1 accident. Every lap I ran in practice was all on my own. There was no other cars around me at all through like 15 minutes of practice. No matter how many times I came out of the pits, I just cycled nobody else around.
We're starting in the back, so be careful and stay out of trouble.
So that was the first time Dale Jr. had even been side by side up to speed with another car with this setup, and obviously now he knows. And it's going to be a little harder to stick the bottom of the racetrack. Thing is, he had clean air in front of him because there was nobody else that was in front of him. The green flag is going to be back in the air. Brandon Wilson, thanks for tuning in to the stream. It was not smart. I'm kicking myself on that one, I'm not going to lie. That is not good. Boyer's still up there in the 3rd place position, too, and hopefully the car's not going to handle too poorly after that accident for Dale Jr. Newman going to lead lap 1. 1 car in the wall off the exit of turn 4. He's still up against the wall. It was a 138 car. That's going to be an easy pass for Dale Jr. Somebody's riding basically on the apron with the left side tires, not too far in front of him. I don't even know how Ryan Newman got to the lead that quickly. After falling back to 3rd in the opening corner, Jr. tight in turn 3 again. Mention that this is a very narrow 1.5 miles. Bottom lane open through turns 1 and 2. Junior had such a great launch, and my eyes were so wide open. I was like, oh my gosh, I can get to the lead on the first lap, get the track position. Even though I didn't qualify on the pole as fast as in practice. I was so excited to get that clean air that I just overdrove turn 3 in the process of trying to get around Mark Martin. Martin tried to go for back-to-back wins. He won the last race at Kansas, becoming the 11th different winner this season, not the 12th different winner, like I stated at the end of the race last night. It would have been the 12th different winner if it was the Cup Series, but that was our 11th different winner in the Busch Series side of things. Junior's made a couple passes at the back of the pack cleanly. His lap also in qualifying, both of them, on the 2 laps he had, wasn't as quick as what he ran in practice. He ran a 30.715 in practice. His 3rd place qualifying time was a 30.731. About a 100th off, roughly. Outsider, thanks for tuning into the stream. He just ran faster than what he did in qualifying that last lap. And in traffic. And a run on the back straightaway underneath the 131. That hole opened up quickly for Dale Jr. Slides up clear. We'll say the cars at the back of the pack for the most part are giving Dale Jr. space. There's a major stack up going on. Dale Jr. checked up a bunch in turns 1 and 2. Amazing how wadded up those cars got up ahead, and look at how packed together it is. Middle of the pack, this could get dangerous. I already saw the big wreck on lap 1 that took out about half the field. One car just got loose on the outside lane. Junior taking advantage of that checkup, gaining some spots down on the inside. Into turns 1 and 2 he goes, and he's up to 30th again. Still a big run. Matt Kenseth, by the way, is leading. He took the lead just a couple laps after the restart from Ryan Newman. Junior got hung up on the 119 car. Had to lift to keep from turning him. Almost allowed the 131 to get back down to the inside of the back straightaway. .200 laps, 300 miles is the scheduled distance tonight, also just like the Kansas race last night. .30.66 won that last lap for Dale Jr. I don't think he's wrecked the speed out of the car, thankfully. I think he's lucky they weren't up to speed when they wrecked, and that probably allowed him, despite nosing into the outside wall, or at least more with the right front into the outside wall, that it didn't really cost him too much. Speed, at least. Oh my goodness. 4 wide on the front stretch, and they're wrecking nearly up high as there was contact. Junior passes all 3 of them into turn 1. I don't know who the 2 cars were on the outside of that, but they got together. And one car might have gotten squeezed into the wall when Junior pulled out a line 4 wide. Another gutsy move by Dale Jr. That one paid off. I didn't think we were going to see 4 wide today. I don't even think we saw 4 wide in the Kansas Xfinity race yesterday. This track is more narrow than Kansas, too. Many cars that were putting it in the wall off turn 4 yesterday, I don't think they would have been able to go 4 wide. They were wrecking 3 wide some of the time. That's how a couple of the accidents started. Such an urgency to lead as many laps as possible. Dale Jr. was not able to get the most laps led yesterday. He led 35 laps en route to finishing 9th. Was leading with just 4 laps to go. And there was contact battling for the win at the time with Kyle Busch that allowed Mark Martin to get from 3rd to 1st in one corner and pull away to win the race. Probably going to be a 3-stop race. Also like the Kansas race last night. It'll be interesting to see how cautions pace themselves. Obviously we saw the one on lap 1 already. Surprised we haven't seen a debris caution with as many cars that were caught up in it. I would not doubt that there were 20 cars involved in that accident. No joke. But again, I guess, considering the fact that not everybody was up to speed, it's about the only thing I can think of as far as why we haven't seen debris after restarting about 15 laps ago. And honestly, in 15 laps, Dale Jr. has already picked up a bunch of spots. 21 of them since the restart. And 17 going a bit wide. Junior just got underneath him, taking the dive into turns 1 and 2, and Junior's already back inside the top 20. Brandon Miller, Kenny Wallace are the next 2 cars in front of him. Clint Boyer won the first race at Charlotte earlier this season. That is worth noting considering he's the points leader. We got a car in the wall off turn 4 and still in the wall up against the front stretch. They're stacking up the outside lane. That causes Junior to launch a car into the corner, and they're wrecking 2 cars are upside down in turns 1 and 2 after that nasty crash. Somebody got into the wall and stacked everything up on the top, and Dale Jr. ran into the back of the 107 and launched him into Brandon Miller, and the 107 goes upside down. Also, we had 3 cars flip in that accident. John Hamilton, Brandon Miller, and then the 107 when he came back down onto the apron. Oh my goodness. That was like an explosion of cars. I don't know who got into the wall, but that's what caused the accident. That was terrible. That was awesome. It happened. I saw the car on the outside, and he was up against the wall all the way down the front stretch. I didn't think that they were going to check up that much going into the corner. I thought they were just going to drive right under him. And that obviously did not happen. And unfortunately, Dale Jr. started the accident there, unfortunately, and he's going to gain a lot of track position, but now he's going to have older tires. He is going to get to the lead. That's the bright side. Maybe. Oh, that was a tight race off pit road between Boyer and Earnhardt. Did Dale Jr. win the race out of the pits? If he did, that'll keep Boyer from having the lead. And Jr. did narrowly beat Clint Boyer off of pit road. That 2 cars pit crew is unbelievably fast. Green flag back in the air. And Dale Jr. is leading for the first time today, all things considered. But he is going to have, if you exclude the caution laps, probably about 22 lap older tires at a surface that degrades tires quite a bit here at Charlotte. Junior's going to hope for the best. Clint Boyer up on the outside. Matt Kenseth on the 17 down low. Junior can't even hold the outside. Clint Boyer unfortunately got held behind Dale Jr. and Junior's going to continue to try to hold Boyer back. Junior turned himself. Back across the track he goes. Pretty good hit to the left side of the race car. He's trying too hard. I mean, he just crowded Boyer. Boyer was already there. There was no chance he was going to get back down to the inside. He was stuck on the top after Kenseth blew around him, and Junior had no chance on those old tires to stay in front of those guys on this surface. Aaron Crocker took a hard lick into the outside wall off of turn 2 as well. I don't know that Junior's going to make it to the finish the way this has gone so far. He's got quite a bit of damage on the left side of the race car. It was in the red after that hit. Stop driving like Stenhouse. Major pain. I knew this was going to be tough. This is almost up there with Dover as far as how hard this track is to drive. I'm just making stupid errors right now. Practice, it was hard to drive. This.
Nobody else decided to come in.
Oh, man. We're going to make it through it. Green flag back in the air. Kenseth is the new leader. Took the lead right before that third caution came out. May turn into Dover all over again. Dale Jr. won the Busch race at Dover, but not the Cup race. He didn't run so hot in the Cup race. This is looking like the Cup race at Dover. If there's going to be a wreck that Dale Jr. is not going to cause, that would be great. As well, maybe not, because Jr.'s at the back of the pack. He'd have to miss it. I think that streak of Dale Jr. now. Oh, one car loose off turn 4, up high, wiggling off the exit of the corner, fishtailing, but held on to it. Stacked up the car in line right behind him, too. Allowed Dale Jr. to pass both of them on the front stretch. I just think the cars at the front of the field... I mean, we haven't seen Dale Jr. up at the front of the field, though, when everybody is on equally fresh tires, or even just equal tires in general. Still got about 20 lap older tires than everybody else. Caution. Off turn 4. And now Dale Jr. can pit for fuel and tires. And it's going to be debris off of Aaron Crocker's race car as her hood has come off. That will be caution number 4 and our first debris yellow of the night. This will help the handling a little bit. It doesn't help those tires have been shot on the 81 after that lap 1 spin, I'm sure. No adjustments this time. He's going to take 4 tires and fuel. Haven't really seen many laps on these tires, well, really any laps at all, on these tires without a slide of some sort, so I'm not really sure exactly how the car would handle from this next restart. Hopefully we get a good look. Mark DeMars, thanks for tuning into the stream. Junior's only going to have a couple lap fresher tires than everybody else. Might make a difference initially the first few laps after the restart, but that would be about it. But that time he'll probably only pass a dozen cars if he's lucky. Oh, green flag back in the air. Kenseth's logging in a lot of laps led with all these caution flags coming out because he was leading a little bit earlier in the race before the 3rd yellow even happened. And now we've been through 4 cautions and 38 laps so far to start this evening's race at the Lowe Motor Speedway. Just breathe and focus. Yeah, I saw it. This is not a championship caliber drive out of Dale Jr. so far today, but hopefully he can make it a championship caliber comeback. '83 got a bit loose off turn 4. I don't think he got in the wall. The right rear quarter panel was really yawed out, though. Best corner to pass, it seems like it's turns 1 and 2, at least for the handling of the 81 car itself. Yeah. 1 DNF, it is over. And Dale Jr. did DNF in the Cup Series race at Charlotte, the Coke 600, earlier this season. So this is a track where we have seen Dale Jr. DNF, just not in this series this year. I mean, much smoother in the Busch race earlier this year to finish in 6th. Football, use a football analogy or football expression here that you have to compete all 4 quarters. We are still in the first quarter of this race, so there is a lot of time for Dale Jr. to turn this thing around. Cautions are really prolonging the length of this one, in elapsed time at least. Going off strategy is probably not going to be the best way to win this race, because we saw what Dale Jr. on older tires looked like at the front of the field with everybody on just 20 lap pressure tires behind him. They were just blowing right around him and had no chance to hang on. Now he's back on fairly equal tires again. It's going to be a lot easier to pass these guys at the back of the pack now versus later in the race. They're only going to get more aggressive as these passes for position are becoming more and more important the later and later we get in the race. These Busch and Truck Series races, again, are not long. 300 miles is not a long race, especially on a mile and a half. Junior did not make it 3 wide. He had enough of a run that he could have attempted to. Major stack up. Off turn 2, didn't even realize there was a car on the outside. Junior was going to go up to try and arc the corner off into turn 3. And there was a car already there. Luckily, he was able to make a quick reaction to that and stay on the inside lane at least enough. Really low exit, so low that he couldn't get much drive off. Couldn't stay 3 wide. He'll get around to car through 3 and 4. Junior has not picked up hardly any position since this restart, though. Had a chance to hang on to older tires, but Ross Chastain took hold of your car. That was a very Chastain-like move. Only I wrecked myself, though. Oh, we've got a car blowing up on the inside of the track up ahead. Oh, jeez. Junior clipped the apron, turned him right left, and as soon as he slides back up onto the track, he made contact with another car. I couldn't tell who that was. It looked like maybe Michael Jordan Jr. just blew an engine. If it wasn't him, it was a fantasy driver. I do not plan on trying to hold on old tires again, though. I feel like I just would have been freight trained regardless. Obviously, wrecking was the worst thing that could have happened there. Well, the worst thing would have been DNFing, but the second worst thing to happen is what we saw. Luckily, we had a debris caution. I still don't know how we didn't get a debris caution from the first 2 accidents, but that one that Aaron Crocker was involved in, we did get one. And she hit hard, but she didn't hit as hard as those 3 cars that flipped earlier. One car a bit wide off turn 4, didn't get into the wall. Junior's checking up. He had a run, then he got blocked. He's going to have no chance to get underneath that car in front of him, and whoever that was in front of him did have enough of a run himself, too, on the 106 car, and he passed for position himself. Into turns 3 and 4, Dale Jr. will make a pass on that same 106 and move himself up to 34th. Very similar to Kansas, we're seeing drivers get out of control off the exit of turn 4, only more of a loose situation today. Versus at Kansas, they were getting tight and kind of getting up into the wall. Today, it seems like the rear of the car is where the lack of stability is right now in these cars on this surface. Turn 4 has been Calamity Corner. Another car up against the wall on the outside. Junior's going to get underneath him. drove the corner a bit, made contact with the car on the outside. I wouldn't doubt that that last wreck knocked a lot of speed out of the 81 as well, and maybe that's another reason why he's not getting through the field as quickly as he did a little earlier. They were definitely up to speed that last time he had wrecked. Just on high alert of the cars in front of him, too.
The 107 car, outside. Hands up. Still hanging on. Hey, great pass, buddy. Number 107, just got a run on you. Clear. Let's go now. 7 seconds off the lead.
Outside of Matt Kenseth pulling away, as you can see on the track map on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, it seems like everybody else pretty much jam-packed together from second on back. Kenseth seems to be the class of the field today because he got to the lead pretty quickly after that second restart. Lost the lead on pit road during the pit stops under caution earlier during that second caution, but then got back to the lead after that next restart, and now he's setting sail. Trying to make it back-to-back wins for Roush Fenway in the Busch Series. Kenseth trying to become the 12th different Busch Series winner this season. He's won 2 Cup Series races, including one of the chase races so far, as he won at Talladega.
Everything okay with the car? Still there. All clear.
Clint Boyer has a DNF and the championship battle lives on, yeah. It'll live on for now, but yeah, for Dale Jr. to actually have a shot to win it, DNF. But that's why you got to have a chance going into the final race, because you never know what could happen. Even if Boyer has a 130-point lead going into Homestead, if he DNFs at Homestead, Dale Jr.'s right there. If he has a solid finish, he's going to win the title. He just has to go into Homestead with a chance. And as of right now, he would have to gain about 36 points on Boyer to have a chance mathematically. Not exactly 36. I believe 35 points exactly to have a shot at Boyer going into the final race of the season. It's about 7 positions he's going to have to outpoint Boyer if Boyer doesn't DNF. Well, 7 points, or 7 positions he'd have to beat Boyer by net. At least for 4 races in a race in which Boyer doesn't DNF in, and then obviously Boyer would have to DNF on top of that. That's not even counting the bonus points, though, either. Now, luckily, neither Boyer... Well, actually, Dale Jr. did lead laps under caution. He didn't lead a green flag lap, but he did lead a couple laps under caution, at least one. So he does have 5 bonus points today, so I guess that was one good thing with him causing an accident, that he was able to get that lap led. Unfortunately, he has lost track position as a result of it as well. He's got a massive run. Surprised he even tried to go 3 wide to the inside that low off turn 4. He got the car to stick somehow. 117 pulls down, makes a block in the middle of the front stretch, and around goes Junior. He clipped the apron and back into the traffic again. That time he didn't get so lucky, and he took a big hit from behind. Caution number 5. I did that in practice once. Luckily, there was no traffic around me at the time, but back of that 81 car is absolutely destroyed from that hit from the fantasy car. Somehow he didn't DNF. Toxic Punk Young Boy, thanks for tuning in. I'm as ashamed of myself as you guys are. I don't know. I thought I was, you know, feeling good coming into the stream. Honestly, after practice, I knew it was going to be difficult, but I didn't think it was going to be this difficult. I honestly didn't.
Nobody else decided to come in.
I mean, at that time, I just clipped the apron. It's so hard. It's so hard not to clip the apron. I don't do it as much on, like, the NASCAR Heat Series games, and I'm wondering if it's just, like, the analog with the PS2 being probably maybe a little bit more touchy than the PS4. I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's probably me. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to find a way to, like, rationalize why I seem to clip the apron more in this game compared to any other game. I mean, even NASCAR 05, I rarely wrecked. The cars in general were more stable, but still. Just over 60 laps in. Hopefully none of you guys are too discouraged at me. I obviously am not meaning to wreck. I mean, why would I want to put myself in that kind of a position? Caution's out for debris. Our 6th yellow, Dale Jr. is going to be able to pit for fuel and tires. And it was the car that hit him. I don't know how the car that hit him had damage from behind, but maybe he got ran into from somebody else. Maybe if he tried to jam on the brakes and check up. I don't know who a lot of the fantasy drivers are by name in this game compared to NASCAR 05. A lot of them changed, so I was thinking they were going to just say the same with the names. The cars were the same, but everybody's name got switched up in every series. So unless they're at the front of the point standings like John Hamilton or Joe Smith, I have no clue who they are. Well, the good news is Dale Jr. can get a little bit more fuel in his car than everybody else. I don't think that's going to matter too much. It's still a 2-stop race to the end from here, so he's got to make sure he saves his tires now because he's only got 2 sets left. With the second set already going on, we're not even 70 laps in. Mike Honcho? Is that true or is that just made up? I mean, it's made up either way, but I want to know if that's a fact or not.
Looks like we were the only car on pit road during that entire caution.
Alright, well, here we go again. Another restart. Lap 68, 6 cautions already today. We're averaging a caution almost every 10 laps. 11 laps, roughly, on average. Most cautions in a Busch Series race this season was at Dover, just like it was, or sorry, it was at Watkins Glen for the Busch Series. It was 15 cautions. Cup Series, it was Dover when we broke a NASCAR record with 23 yellows. Luckily, in that race, only 2 of them were my fault. Unfortunately, I've had 4 wrecks that were pretty, well, 3. The one where I ended up getting into the back of a car after somebody got in the wall off turn 4. We've got trouble again. There's a wreck. Dale Jr. misses it to the inside. Oh, my goodness. I hope he gets all those spots. They were stacking up again, and Dale Jr. was flying at about 180 miles an hour down to the apron, trying to gas it through everybody. Thank goodness he didn't get caught up in another one. You can see me on the right side of the camera just blowing by everybody. Caution is out, first lap after the restart. We'll see if anybody's going to come in. Dale Jr. is going to stay out. I would imagine some of those spots I probably gained. I don't know how many of them, though. There's quite a few cars, obviously, in front of Dale Jr. And Jr. not going to pit for tires. He just did. Maybe could have topped off, but he would have only been able to put one more lap's worth of fuel in the car, so it probably wasn't worth it depending on how many spots were gained out of that. Green flag back there. I guess he only gained one position somehow. That's a little disappointing, otherwise it would have topped off. Oh well. There's probably going to be a lot more cars with debris. There's one car that's got its deck lid flapping just a couple positions ahead of us. And that was caution number 7. Finally, a wreck I did not cause. I don't feel as bad now. Breathe and stay focused. I will say, it is hard to breathe in a point stipulation / wild race. Oh, we got trouble again! Off turn 4. Couple cars around. Dale Jr. going in the grass. That time he's going to pick up a bunch of spots. Goodness gracious. If it's not Dale Jr., it's anybody else. No clue how that one started. Hopefully Junior didn't wear his tires out too much going down into the grass to miss everything. He's got a lot of clean air around him, though. That's good. Still got the smoke from all the carnage. One car did go in the grass other than Dale Jr. I'm surprised there wasn't a yellow there. It's oddly similar to what happened off of... We're going into turn 1, I should say, on the previous restart. Yeah, passing the grass. Junior gained 11 positions out of that. I remember Las Vegas in the Truck Series where I got a top 10 in a similar circumstance. Only like literally everybody for second on back wrecked. 30.999 that last lap for Dale Jr. And if that's about as fast as this car is anymore, that is not good because he's got fresh tires. And he was running 36s. And now he's barely running better than 31 second lap times with all the damage. One car went up the track, I saw in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Another 30.999, 2 laps in a row. I think this is about as much as Dale Jr. could get out of the car now, unfortunately. I don't think adjustments are really going to do anything at this point. I mean, it's all been driver error, and not because the car is that hard handling. It's more just a narrow track. So when you're trying to make passes, it's even more narrow, obviously. And we've got trouble again off turn 4. There's smoke everywhere. Dale Jr. has nowhere to go. He's going to go down into the grass. There's still a car on the outside wall as they enter towards turn 1. Junior on the apron, merges into the corner, and he's clear. He's up to 19th. Somehow there hasn't been any cautions the last couple times that he's done that. He'll take it, I guess. Gained 11 spots the first time and 10 that time. He's wearing his tires out every time he goes into the grass, but I mean, you couldn't even see a thing that time, and he probably would have piled right into the back of some cars if he didn't do that. Way up the racetrack. Got his nose chopped off. 133 car back to the inside of Dale Jr. Jr. on the outside wants to get back down to the bottom. He's going to make sure he's got room before he moves down this time, and he did. Well, the guy who's really liking all this carnage is Matt Kenseth. So he continues to lead. Dale Jr.'s car is even worse handling in traffic with all this damage. My goodness, on its own it felt a little looser than normal, but stay off the apron. 120 more laps to try and do so. Just imagine we have 500 miles of this in the Cup Series tomorrow. Oh, man. If you think this is rough, just wait till tomorrow. Hendrick Fan 6 for tuning in. I did DNF for the Cup Series, yes. There's a slow car right now in turns 1 and 2. Somebody has blown an engine. Dale Jr.'s fine with riding in line in 20th right now, honestly. I'm fine if it honestly stays green to the end of the race, because I do not want to deal with any more restarts, how chaotic they have been. There's a slow car down to the bottom of the track with an engine failure. One of the fantasy drivers, once again, has blown an engine. All the damaged cars, I wouldn't doubt that we're going to see more. .504 out of nowhere that last lap by Dale Jr. I don't know how he ran that, but he did. It's underneath his teammate Truex, who was really falling back. Truex 4th in points. He's back to 20th. We're going to see if Truex is going to block the rest of the field behind. Try to give Dale Jr. a little bit of breathing room. Massive run through 3 and 4 that time for Jr., but he's just going to back out. He's got to take it easy. I mean, I am fine with 19th. We just need to survive to the end with a car that's severely damaged right now. 7 seconds off the race lead. He's got to run off turn 2, but he doesn't have the straightaway speed to keep on the inside. I think that's the 133 who got bounced a bit wide. Dale Jr. trying to take advantage of it. The 133 tried to throw a block. Dale Jr. was already there. Bit of contact was made. Jr. will make the pass through turns 1 and 2. I feel like with all the damage, it's going to be so much easier to get aero loose, too. That's going to be a danger with a car in line behind Dale Jr. as Jr. got into the wall off turn 4. Threw a pretty big block on the front stretch despite the slow momentum getting into the wall with the 133 having a hard charge behind him, but he does stay in front of him. Craig Franklin, thanks for tuning into the stream. What is this game block? Yes. I don't think anybody's beating Matt Kenseth today. The goal for Dale Jr. beat Clint Boyer. He failed to do so at Kansas last night despite getting a top 10. Boyer had a top 5 finishing 4th. Boyer won at Charlotte earlier this season. We know he's got a fast car. He's been top 5 all day. Dale Jr. on the other hand has been pretty much outside the top 10 all day. Led under caution, that was it. Car in front of him got loose off turn 4. Jr. gets enough of a run to get to the inside, or at least take a look to the inside. Getting squeezed through turns 1 and 2. There's a slight bit of contact, but Jr.'s going to slide clear for 17th. He wanted to capitalize on that opportunity with that car washing up just a bit. I have to wonder when the field's going to hit pit road. Remember, Dale Jr.'s got a little bit more fuel in his car than everybody else. It's still 2-stopper to the end for the entire field, though. And actually, there are a couple cars on pit road right now, but I don't know if those were... Yeah, it was scheduled. So our first drivers did just come into the pits about a lap ago. More drivers in this time, including teammate Martin Truex Jr. It's going to put Dale up to 11th. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you are new. 13 likes on the stream so far through 90 laps. It has been a caution-filled first half at the Lowe Motor Speedway. 7 yellows in total. Probably should have had a couple more after that last restart. There were 2 instances where there were a lot of cars slow and a couple down in the grass. Separate points in time because of contact both off the exit of turn 4 as well as the entrance to turn 1. Lap cars merging in front of some of the lead lap cars. Just coming out of the pits. Matt Kenseth's still on the racetrack, so is Dale Jr. Jr.'s going to lose a lot of time. But he pitted during the debris caution from Aaron Crocker. Or actually, it was the debris caution after Aaron Crocker. That second debris caution, which I believe was the 6th caution of the race. He did pit during the Aaron Crocker debris caution also, but that was the first time he pitted. The most recent time was probably closer to about lap 60 or so. Oh, one car in the wall off turn 2. Aaron Crocker's unfortunately a rival. Dale Jr.'s going to have to be careful. These guys have fresher tires behind him. Some of the leaders on their way in. Crocker's got a lot of damage on the front of her race car. She was obviously caught up in one of the accidents Dale Jr. had been involved in. I think it was after he had spun clipping the apron earlier in the race. Jr.'s got to make sure he stays in front of her. Matt Kenseth on his way into the pits now from the lead. J.J. Yaley's the new leader. And once Yaley pits, Dale Jr. will take his second lead of the race, but the first time during green flag conditions. I won't feel as cheated out of getting that lap led if I can lead under green. Especially considering I caused a caution that I led under. Yaley's going to pit, so Jr.'s going to take the lead off turn 4. Kenny Wallace is still stuck in line behind Dale Jr. getting held up. So is Brandon Miller in the 21. Crocker with the damage is falling back a little bit. She can't really keep up with Dale. Jr. out in the lead. Miller down low, at least under Kenny Wallace. Jr. trying to hold the outside with Miller underneath him. It's not easy. Jr.'s backing way out of the gas. Aaron Crocker got to the inside. I had a feeling Crocker was going to try to ram Dale Jr. into the wall, so he just got way out of the gas and let Crocker go before that could happen. Jr. doesn't want a DNF. Now, all these cars that are in front of Dale Jr., I believe, are on the lead lap. So if a caution came out, everybody in front of him would restart in front of him, but at least Dale Jr. would trap quite a few cars a lap down. Would have lapped up inside the top 10. Nobody in line behind him either. Excuse me. He's trying to hold that back. 30.420. Last lap in line behind Bobby Labonte. I don't know how, but Dale Jr. has made it halfway. Time for tonight's trivia question on the channel. Who is the most recent driver in NASCAR Xfinity Series history to sweep both the spring and fall Charlotte Oval races? That is tonight's trivia question. Who is the most recent Xfinity Series driver to sweep the spring and Charlotte Oval races? There will be a hint at lap 105 if you guys did not get the answer before then. The answer will be given at lap 110. Do I need another die-cast case? Pretty soon. I don't know what I'm going to start to do with the rest of them. It is not Denny Hamlin. It's not Joey Logano. Not Austin Cindric. It is not Kyle Busch. That would be too obvious. It is not Kyle Larson. It is not Ricky Stenhouse Jr. It is not Earnhardt. Gotta be more specific again if it's the same last name, but it's not either Earnhardt. It is not Chase Briscoe either. It is not Ty Gibbs. Halfway on fuel. Dale Jr. can go quite a ways yet. Anthony Jones, thanks for tuning in as well. You also got to remember Ty Gibbs wasn't racing at a time where Charlotte ran the oval race in the fall. He's only known in his short NASCAR Xfinity Series career that the fall race is the road course race at the Roval. It is not Mark Martin. That's a good answer, though. It's a close answer. It is not Christopher Bell. I say that because Mark Martin has a couple sweeps. It's not Jamie McMurray. Not the Andretti's. Alright, I haven't seen the answer yet. It is lap 105. Mike Hacho, no. You guys have 5 more laps to get it right. The hint is it is a current driver in the NASCAR Cup Series. So it is a current driver in the NASCAR Cup Series that you are looking for, that you guys have not answered yet. So it is not David Green, Scott Riggs, Brian Vickers. It is a current Cup Series driver. Full-time. Current full-time Cup driver. Therefore, it is not Labonte or Stewart either. Or Craven. Or Jeff Creed. Or Casey Kane. He's not current either. It is not Ryan Blaney. There we go. Not Kurt Busch, not Brad Keselowski. Michael Turner's gotten it. I was waiting for somebody to get it. Guys, I greatly appreciate you guys participating tonight. Michael Turner did get it, though. Austin Dillon is the most recent driver to sweep both the Xfinity fall and spring Charlotte races in the same season. And the year was 2015. Austin Dillon won both races, coincidentally enough. A year and a half after that fall 2015 win, he got his first career Cup win in the Coke 600 in 2017. Bobby Labonte is not running as quick of a pace. It's probably why Dale Jr. is able to keep up with him on older tires. Nobody's closing in from behind, though. Dale Jr. is very comfortable with this situation in line behind the 19 car. It's tightening him up if he runs the same line enough to where he's not majorly loose like he once was. Is it possible Dale Jr. could actually stretch this race to one stop? That might be the only way he can think of winning this race is on fuel mileage. You might as well think about it in this situation. Auto switch driver absolutely sucks. And why are you beating down Austin Dillon? Dale Jr. is probably going to have to stretch this run to about 60 laps to go if he's going to make it on fuel on just one more stop, which is probably not going to be able to work itself out. I highly doubt it would work itself out. I mean, you consider there's still 89 laps to go, and he's already had a half a tank of fuel left. So it is probably still a two-stopper for Dale Jr. as we imagined it was likely going to be. Figured I couldn't cheat the system that way. Oh, Labonte got a bit loose. Off the exit of turn 4. Allowed Dale Jr. to get underneath him. Jr. lacks so much straightaway speed that when he hopped out of line, despite how loose Labonte was off the exit of turn 4 and having to lift where Jr. was able to stay in the gas and power underneath him, he couldn't pass the 19 car. Obviously older tires too for the 81, which is another reason why he's just kind of sitting behind Bobby Labonte. Even if he passes him, he's definitely not going to be able to pull away. '49ers Warriors, thanks for tuning into the stream. Oh, jeez. That was a big mistake by Earnhardt. Went a bit too wide into turn 1. Colton Thompson, thanks for tuning into the stream also. I wish it was like NASCAR Thunder 04 where I could see to the exact tenth of a gallon how much fuel we have left in the in-car cam. Fortunately, that is not available in this game. We got cars closing up behind Dale Jr. slowly. Dale Jr.'s now had to make a green flag pit stop. His green flag pit stop attempt in practice wasn't that bad. Honestly, he got on really without any issues. And hopefully in the race, it would be the same. You can only hope, at least. Definitely the longest green flag run of the race by far. Almost 40 laps since the last caution after we had 7 of them in the first 80. Quarter tank of gas left for Dale Jr., that's it. We're going to take our first field pass of the day with Martin Truex Jr. very soon. Probably get them both out of the way now. It's really going to just depend on how many laps Dale Jr. can go on a full tank of fuel. I can't remember exactly what restart it was for Dale Jr. in which he last pitted for fuel and tires. And obviously how many cautions we have had. It was a 6th yellow, so we did have 1 yellow after that. Truex had a big run off turn 2, trying to get to the inside of the 133. He is there. Truex having a rough one today. Side by side through turns 3 and 4. Truex trying to make the pass. He is getting squeezed right now. A little contact. And Truex is clear into turn 1 for 16th. Dale Jr.'s a little bit slower while we're driving his Truex too. It might help him save a bit of fuel. Take what you can get at this point. Truex still lapped down with the 81 car and his teammate right in front of him yet. And Dale Jr. also got by Bobby Labonte. So he's actually running maybe a little bit faster. He's going to let Labonte go. Bobby putting a lot of pressure on him. Through turns 3 and 4. I don't know how Dale Jr. got around him with this wrecked race car, but he did. 19.5 second lead still for Earnhardt. And the right rear tire on the 81 starting to wear out quite a bit as well. Truex still staying in front of the 133. .498 at last lap for Martin Truex Jr. Timed in at the start-finish line. Jr. really gapped the 133 car behind him. We'll go back to Dale Jr. this coming lap. Can't tell from this far back, but I think Jr. might have passed Bobby Labonte again. He did. Now he's on the outside through turns 1 and 2. Ryan Newman in the 39, the pole sitter. Trying to get back on the lead lap as he's on the inside of Dale Jr. Jr. staying on the outside. I'd imagine Jr.'s probably only got less than an 1/8 of a tank of fuel left. I would assume. Labonte and Newman going to get back on the lead lap now. Down to 18.3 seconds. About a half a track lead, just over that for Dale Jr. This car is extremely loose. It's about ready to wreck. It's so aero loose with cars behind him. He was all over the place, middle of the front stretch, and then into turns 1 and 2. And I think Junior's just going to play it safe here. He's going to pit this time. TJ Yaley up on the outside. Dale Jr. is going to try to make his way onto pit road. Doesn't want to wreck. 70 miles per hour is the pit road speed limit. He's going to try to tighten the car up a bit. Going to put a half a round of wedge into it. Going to top off on fuel, 4 tires. So, wedge adjustment coming from Dale Jr. It was just getting too hard to handle. And Dale Jr.'s at the point in this race right now. He just wants to finish. He's probably going to get a mid-pack finish because before pit stop started, I think he was in 17th because he was just in front of Truex. Truex has gained a couple spots, of course, too, but still. Drop the jack. Dale Jr. is going to be on the lead lap. Pretty like they stopped. They're trying to pull out all the fenders possible. 18.3 seconds. Yeah, so Jr. will lose a little bit of time. He's going to have grip again, though. 70 laps to go. He's going to have a lot of clean air in front of him, too. And he does have a lot fresher tires than the rest of the field, also. So that will be a benefit. Bit wide trying to get up to speed through 3 and 4. Dale Jr. will be in 21st. Hopefully the car's not too tight with this wedge adjustment. Should help the longer run, you would think. .68 laps to go. One set of tires left at the end of the race yet for Dale Jr., for those of you wondering. Jamie McMurray all over the back bumper of the 81. Junior's not getting his aero loose anymore. They patch up the damage quite a bit on the back bumper. Junior probably could have stretched it a few more laps on fuel, but I don't know that the car was going to handle that long without wrecking with all the damage on it from a few accidents already that he's been involved in. If Dale Jr. has spun himself, he had been involved in 3 cautions today. Of the 7. Jamie McMurray to the inside of Dale Jr. Jr. with a little drive off on the high side. Just enough straightaway speed off corner exit to pull back down in front of Jamie McMurray. He was still keeping a lot of pressure on him. You don't know if a caution's going to come out, so Jr. trying to stay in front of McMurray as much as he possibly can. McMurray in the wall off turn 4, and he's still against the wall on the front stretch. It's going to free up a little bit of room behind Dale Jr. Not as much pressure on him. At least with these 200 laps of, I guess, practice in a sense for Dale Jr. in a Gen 4 car is going to get him prepared for the Cup race a little bit better, because the second half of this race for himself has been a lot cleaner than the first half. And I think this wedge adjustment definitely helped. It might have made the car a bit slower, but it's handling a lot better, at least than what it was at the end of the last run. Again, he's still on the lead lap. 25.8 seconds right now is the difference between himself and race leader Matt Kenseth. And knowing the rest of the field still has to pit well before Dale Jr., I mean, caution could come out after everybody else pits. Dale Jr.'s not going to lap everybody, but he's probably going to lap most of the top 10 again. And from that point, I mean, that guarantees him a top 10 finish. A lot of cars are on pit road right now as we speak, as they pitted off turn 4. Dale Jr. having to go 70 laps on fuel to the end of this race from when he last pitted. And as of right now, it's looking like green flag laps, at least if it stays green. But we also know cautions have been breeding cautions all day, and at least carnage on the restarts at the very least. Where's this in the era of EA? Well, this is NASCAR 06, so I mean, this is like. Oh, EA Sports made up through 09, so it's kind of right in the middle, really. Middle, probably 2/3 of the way through like the EA Sports era. I noticed only a few cars in front of Dale Jr. pitted. A lot of the cars that did pit were either behind him or they were already a lap down because Dale Jr. is only up to 17th now. Matt Kenseth was one of the last cars to hit pit road the last time. Kenseth has led almost every lap in this race. We haven't really talked about that. Through pit stops under caution and green flag stops, he has led nearly every lap. I mean, Dale Jr. led a lot just moments ago. He's definitely not going to be able to outlead Kenseth with how many laps he's led. Jr. would be satisfied just with another top 10 to keep his streak alive, though. You got one car blowing an engine just up ahead going into turn 3. There were 3 cars in front of Jr., and one of which just blew an engine randomly, and he's going to miss pit road, it looks like. He'll be on the inside of the racetrack. Junior's going to have plenty of time to get around him. That was not a spot. It was already a lap car in the 163. Hopefully nobody hits him because there is no apron on the front stretch. Don't want a Texas All-Star race fiasco with what happened to Kyle Busch. I was waiting for somebody to do that too. To climb right up over the rear of the race car. We already saw 3 cars flip in one wreck earlier. We don't need any more flips at Charlotte. All the flips we've been seeing in the Cup Series races lately have all turned over into this one Busch race tonight. I mean, I like Daytona on the 4th. As long as the playoff format is a thing, I'm fine with it being the regular season finale. I will say it's a lot easier for me to watch fireworks now because I never used to watch the fireworks going on outside because usually, unless the 4th of July, I mean, they'd usually shoot some off on the 4th of July, but a lot of local towns would usually end up having fireworks on Saturday night, whatever, you know, weekend the 4th of July was on. It'd be that Saturday night usually. And now I could at least have the option to see it where before I couldn't. That's probably the one benefit, I guess, with it. Well, I mean, before I could have, but I would have missed, like, the end of the race, because that was about when the end of the race came, when it got dark. I can remember being a little kid sometimes, like, even if we were over at somebody else's house to watch, like, them shoot off fireworks, like, out in the country or something, and another car blowing up. Looks like Bobby Labonte just blew an engine. Looked as if it was Bobby Labonte at least. Back-to-back laps, we've seen a car blowing smoke. "24 viewers currently watching, 16 likes on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you have not already." In the middle of green flag pit stops right now, Dale Jr. has had a lot of speed wrecked out of his race car after being involved, or at least wrecking himself 3 times today of the 7 cautions we have seen. All 7 cautions came in the first 80 laps. We have gone almost 70 laps without a yellow at this point. By far the longest green flag run of the night. And Matt Kenseth, the race leader, is closing in on Dale Jr. as well. And Junior's got fresher tires on him. That shows how fast the 17 is and the lack of speed in the 81 after all the wrecks he's been involved in. Lucky to still be in this race. He comes in second in points. No matter what happened, even if he DNF'd, he was still going to be second in points. But obviously, you're going for a championship, especially if you're Cup Series regular running all the races. That's all you're here for. And Junior still has a shot. But it's going to be difficult. Wade Solinsky, thanks for tuning into the stream. Junior's best bet is to win this thing on fuel mileage at this point. But even if he does, I mean, Kenseth's faster than him now. Once he gets fresher tires than the 81 car, he's going to be even faster. And he may be able to get back around the 81 eventually. Kenseth just doesn't want to pit in case there is a caution in the middle of green flag pit stops, so he doesn't get trapped a lap down. Dale Jr.'s up to 14th right now, so still 13 cars in front of him have to pit. He is the last car in the lead lap. Junior's going to have to go 70 laps on fuel also if he is going to try to make it to the end. I don't know if that's possible. He had to pit because of how worn out his tires were. Didn't want to risk being in another wreck. I mean, that could save him a top 20 finish. If he does end up having to pit again, it's better than wrecking and DNFing and taking him completely out of the championship. I mean, even a 20th place finish at this point is probably going to knock him out of the championship hunt depending on where Clint Boyer is running. We haven't seen him in a while because Dale Jr. really hasn't been in the top 5 at all today. The only time he has led is off of strategy. And as far as actual race position, I don't think he's been higher than 16th on actual speed today. Kenseth's still out on the racetrack. Junior back inside the top 10. And 9 more cars still have to pit in front of him. .46 laps to go for Matt Kenseth. The only thing that separates him from getting his first Busch Series win of the year is Dale Jr. potentially winning this on fuel mileage. We can't check a live leaderboard if I pause it, unfortunately. Kenseth got a big run to the inside. Junior's in the wall. And unfortunately, that has knocked some of the handling out of the 81 car getting into the wall. He was really wide in the middle of the corner for whatever reason. I overdrove it. Couldn't stick it. So now Dale Jr.'s a lap down, which is problematic if a caution came out. Really needs Kenseth to pit sometime soon. He's got 1 car right behind him. I believe he is a lap down, so this is a battle for the free pass position going on right now. If the 138 hasn't pit yet. Kenseth running low into 3 and 4. He may be pitting this time, and he will. Kenseth into the pits. Junior back on the lead lap. And he'll cycle to the lead the next time by as long as nobody else stays out to try and get any bonus points. Clint Boyer has not led yet today. That is also worth noting. And Matt Kenseth probably is going to lead the most laps. Junior's led a lot of laps on this fuel strategy, but I don't think he's going to lead the most. 138 trying the outside. Just not available for him to run. Kenseth just getting his way off the pit road right now as Dale Jr.'s going to, well, he won't take the lead. Kenseth's got a lap car right in front of him coming out of the pits. That's going to slow him up a bit. There's 1 more car still on the racetrack that has to pit. It's the 112, one of the fantasy drivers. Dale Jr.'s about 2.4 seconds behind him. And the 112 staying out again. I don't think the 112 is on the same strategy as Dale Jr., but I guess you never know. getting bonus points, even though he's... I don't even know who it is, but he's definitely not in the top 10 in points. Yeah, it's only in the Thunder Series. Surprised EA Sports never kept that in the game. And the 112 will pit now, so he went 2 laps longer than Kenseth on fuel. Dale Jr. back in the lead. 41 laps to go at Charlotte. And we'll see what his gap is back to Matt Kenseth. It's only 3 seconds. 3.2 seconds is the difference between the 81 and the 17. I mean, he's going to get there. There's no way Dale Jr.'s got a quick enough pace. 138 trying to pass him on the outside. And being side by side with another car is definitely costing Dale Jr. as well. Clipped the apron, got a little loose, trying to side draft the 138. He just lost like a half a second that last lap alone. Kenseth's coming. Kenseth was way ahead of whoever the original second place car is, though. So I'm hoping he's got like 10 seconds over second place. And at least Junior can finish second at the very least. Because he's definitely not going to win this thing. There's just no chance with the damaged car. This is as fast as he can go right now. And he's running 37s. He was running 35s at one point. I think he ran a high 34 at his very fastest. He is at least 0.3 of a second off on speed with the damage. And Kenseth probably had the quickest car in the field even before Dale Jr.'s damage. The damage is just collateral at this point and only adding on to everything. .38 to go. Kenseth was about a 10th quicker than Junior these last 2 laps. Now, Junior riding in line behind the 138. Again, the car's a bit on the free side off the exit of the corner, especially in turn 4s. We've seen most drivers get free at that end of the racetrack. So him being a little tighter, even if he can't rotate it all the way to the bottom some of the time, at least it's helping the car turn, even if he has to run the outside. He's going to try to hang on in front of the 17, but he's got to be smart. This needs to stay green to the end of the race, too, because even on fresher tires, he doesn't have the car to get up there. Halfway on fuel. 37 coming to 36 to go. I think he's about a lap short. Junior's about a lap short on fuel right now. Maybe a little more than that. Well, maybe he does need a caution just to make it. Junior got back to the inside of the 138 off the exit of turn 4. Briefly, at least. Couldn't make the pass. 138 car does have fresher tires than the 81, even if Junior was somehow faster than him. I mean, on speed, even with the damage, he's about 16th on equal tires speed. Kenseth has trimmed the lead down to a 2.5 seconds. Caution could end the race if it happens with 5 or less laps to go. That is also worth noting. If we did get an extremely late yellow, but that is really asking for maybe too much. Second and a half lead for Earnhardt. He's only been in the lead for 8 laps this time by, and he's already lost 1.8 seconds of his lead. I have to imagine drafting behind the 138 might be saving some fuel too. Not like it, as if it was a super speedway. Better than nothing. Junior's back in the corner entry out just a tad more than he was before. So he's not using as much brake. And he's only rolling out of the gas, so that's one way he could try and save fuel. But he doesn't want to back all the way out of it. Because if he just gives up a bunch of spots anyway, I mean, you might as well run until you can't anymore. So you're probably going to lose positions no matter what you try to do. Contact. The 138 car off turn 4. Junior got hung up on the left rear corner panel of the driver's race car, and Junior lost more of the lead all of a sudden. 0.4 of a second quicker was Kenseth that last lap with the contact off turn 4. Hopefully the 138 car runs this aggressively in front of Matt Kenseth as he is with Dale Jr. It's not guaranteed that that's going to happen. I honestly think if Junior was in front of him, he'd be able to pull away. Kenseth just over half a second off the lead. 30.602, that wasn't a bad lap by Junior. All things considered, at least. And you're 0.2 off the pace from where you originally were because of damage. Kind of have to adjust your expectations. 28 laps to go at the line for Dale Jr. Trying to get to about 17 or 18 to go before he hits a quarter tank of fuel. And we'll really know if he's pacing and how he's pacing. 17 car of Matt Kenseth is the next car behind Dale Jr. And he is within a couple car lengths off turn 4 that time. Problem is, Junior's tight in the dirty air, too. And Kenseth's probably just going to drive right around him. He's got fresher tires and a much faster race car. Well, hang on. The 138's going to go a bit wide. Through 3 and 4. Junior clips the apron, hangs on to it. Side by side in front of Kenseth. Nowhere for him to go. Junior just trying to block the 17 as much as he possibly can. 138 still on the outside. Junior side drafts and pulls him back. Kenseth still blocked in. Junior's going to clear the 138 car off of turn number 2. Kenseth still stuck behind the 138 into 3 and 4. And Junior stays in front of Kenseth off the exit of 4. He slides a bit. Kenseth getting him arrow loose. 25 laps to go. Kenseth going wide. This would be absolutely incredible if somehow, some way, Junior's going to let the 138 go. Kenseth had a shot to get underneath. Junior got loose into the corner. Past halfway through the field, tire stem probably doesn't help. And the looser Junior gets now, the looser he's going to be at the end of the run, too. Still 24 laps to go. 17 car Matt Kenseth still there. Junior yawing it out into turn 1. Great job by Junior keeping control of the car with how unstable it is with the 17 behind him, and he's still able to hold Kenseth back there as well. Dancing around on the back straightaway. Kenseth almost got in the wall off turn 4. 23 to go. Oh, I mentioned Charlotte was hard to pass. Kenseth hasn't really had to pass anybody for position all day. On a non-restart, He hasn't had to. So maybe Kenseth's car is not as good in traffic as what he is when he's had the clean air. And I think Kenseth got loose off turn 4 that time. So he lost about a half a car length to Dale Jr. and he's got to use the whole front stretch to try and get back to him. This is a championship caliber drive if Dale Jr. is able to hold Kenseth off all the way to the end. And make it on fuel simultaneously. I mean, one caution could allow Dale Jr. to make it on fuel too, even if he stays out, considering a caution to be at least 3 caution laps. Ends up getting tight in the dirty air, moved wide in the middle of the corner. See, with Junior's car loose, that's why he's not getting as tight as Kenseth too. Especially on older tires, as he's in line behind the 138. Finds a little better equal balance. He's not as aero loose also compared to when he was in front of both the 138 and Matt Kenseth. That was a 30.5 flat that last lap by Dale Jr. He's somehow picking this pace up. As close to that white line as possible. It's going to be a gutted out kind of finish here for Dale Jr. They'll be coming to 19 laps to go this time by. Kenseth going a bit wide, but so was Jr. that time. Both cars keep it off the wall. Kenseth much closer. It's going to carry him a little bit more front stretch speed. 19 laps to go right now, and just a quarter tank of gas left for Dale Jr. Right rear starting to get worn. .138 leaving the bottom lane open again. Dale Jr. going to get underneath him off the exit of turn 4. Kenseth boxed in. He's trying to follow the 138. On the outside. No, Matt Kenseth's going to get to the lead. Great move by Kenseth. Junior's going to try to keep pace with the 17 car. I just don't think it's going to be possible. Contact with the lapper. That's not going to help. Junior is still digging. Kept pace with him through 1 and 2. .16 laps to go. Kenseth's got the clean air again. But Dale Jr. is doing a tremendous job right now keeping pace with Matt Kenseth on much older tires on a track where tire wear has been crucial all day long. Junior's car's yawing out again. Even in dirty air, it's still really loose. Driving the heck out of this thing. Junior's doing all he can just to keep up with him. He's got nothing for Kenseth to get alongside of him. Junior loose even on the front stretch. Kenseth pulled him a bit through 1 and 2. On the apron through 3 and 4. Around he goes. He's going to slide. He saves it. Oh my goodness. What a save by Dale Jr. Caution's out for the 8th time. It was a matter of time before that was going to happen. He was just hanging on for dear life. The car was wanting to turn so far to the left in the middle of the corner, and it was getting harder and harder and harder not to touch the apron. We're gonna... Junior's gonna stay out for now. Gonna have lap cars on the inside of the lead lap cars, and we're gonna have a restart with about 10 laps to go. I don't know if Junior... I mean, that might help Junior make it on fuel now. Who knows? Unfortunately, with the slide, his car's probably gonna be even looser. 10 laps to go in the restart as green flag's back in the air. Who's gonna get to the bottom first? Junior's trying to get there. Lap car in the 106 is still on the inside. How is he able to clip the apron? He's fine. Kenny Wallace to second. Junior's going to try to find a way in line in front of Mark Martin in the 9 car, and he barely does into turns 1 and 2. Matt Kenseth's driving away as he has gotten by the lappers. Dale Jr. just trying to hold on for dear life. Heavy traffic right now for the 81. Contact with the lap car in the 138. No sign of where Clint Boyer is. 8 laps to go. The caution might help him. He's lucky he was able to save it. Does Kenny Wallace somehow have anything for Matt Kenseth? You wouldn't think he does. Oh, Junior up the track. He didn't stick that time. He's going to keep it off the wall. And the car behind him actually got really loose. It stacked up Mark Martin and the rest of the field, so that allowed Dale Jr., even making a minor mistake, to still be able to pull the cars behind him. Now Mark Martin's gotten around the lap car, though. And I think I see Clint Boyer back there in about 5th or 6th. Boyer on his way to another good run. Dale Jr. somehow trying to salvage a podium finish. Six to go. Does he have enough fuel? And on top of the fact, does he have enough fuel? Does this race stay green to the end? Caution comes out, 5 or less laps to go. Again, it can end the race. Junior's not even going to really look to pass this lapper. He got underneath him, but that wasn't really intentional. He was just that slow in the middle of the corner. 5 laps to go. Dark red on the fuel indicator now. Kenny Wallace putting all sorts of pressure right now on Matt Kenseth. Wallace has not won a Busch race yet this year, so 2 Cup Series regulars starting to go at it for the win. Dale Jr. trying to make it on fuel to at least salvage a top 3 in a race he has struggled in. It's the only chance he had at a good finish. Maybe Kenseth and Wallace wreck each other and Jr. wins. Who knows? Seen some wild restarts. It's probably been the most tame restart so far, to be completely honest. There's no way. You wouldn't think Matt Kenseth's going to lose this race. Three laps to go. Dale Jr. just hoping he has enough. We'll be coming to 2 laps to go this time by. Cautions do not come out on the final lap. My heart's pounding right now. I'm not even in the lead, and this is nerve-wracking. Just knowing the championship is on the line for Dale Jr. if he runs out of gas, it's championship over. And he's got 1.5 miles to go this time by. Kenny Wallace goes wide in turns 3 and 4, loses ground to Matt Kenseth. Dale Jr. is somehow pulling Mark Martin and Clint Bowyer. He just ran one of his fastest laps of the race of a 30.456 that last lap into turns 1 and 2. Can Dale Jr. make it back around to the checkered flag? He's got 3/4 mile to go. Matt Kenseth, 1 more corner to go for him to get the win. That caution might have saved Dale Jr., and he was able to save it to keep from having to pit. Matt Kenseth's going to win at Charlotte. Junior's out of gas, off turn 4. He's going to coast it to a 3rd place finish. Oh my goodness. He couldn't have ran out at a better time. If he was going to run out, that was the time to do it. And he will beat Clint Bowyer today and lead laps along the way. Wow. I can't believe we made it. I'm glad I put that gap on them, because if I would have ran out off turn 4 and they would have been right on my back bumper, we would have wrecked. And probably not even made it back to the checker. Matt Kenseth dominates this race and gets the win today at Charlotte, but the big story as far as the championship goes for Dale Jr., he has beaten Clint Bowyer. It took fuel mileage to do it. He led 62 laps in the process and gets the 3rd place finish. Clint Bowyer will lose 15 points to Dale Jr. today. So obviously he's still got over 1 race worth lead of points. But again, if Bowyer just DNFs, somehow in these final 4 races, if Bowyer DNFs, Dale Jr. only had to pick up 35 points on him. 20 more points to go for Dale Jr. He needs to pick up on Clint Bowyer in 3 races that Bowyer doesn't DNF in. So Dale Jr. survives another race and keeps the top 10 streak alive too. 14 top 10s in the last 17 races, 12 top 10s in the last 13 races. He ran a pretty clean second half of this race though. Really from like that lap 80 restart, we only had 1 more caution. It was on my own. Luckily I saved it. Caution still came out because I was sideways enough, but I mean, that was just great drivability. Honestly, the fact that I was able to run those kinds of pace at that stage of the race on that old of tires with that damage of a car, I don't know where I pulled that out of, but I mean, it's in here. It's in here somewhere. It's all mental. Kenseth gets a max points day. First win of the season, though, for Matt Kenseth. Back-to-back for Roush Fenway on the 1.5 miles. Mark Martin won at Kansas. Kenseth today, I thought we were going to have a shot to have the most cautions in a single race this season for the Busch Series. That didn't happen. Actually, we only ended up with 8, and I say only because we only had 1 caution in the last 120 laps of this race. All 24 laps, 24 laps total were ran under the yellow. I cleaned that race up in a hurry, though. That went from, like, my worst driving race of the season, like me, mentally, to, like, I cleaned that thing up in a hurry. The wedge adjustment I made during the second stop definitely helped, too, but man, oh man. That was close. That was the most exciting 3rd place finish I think I'll probably ever have. The happiest 3rd place finish. At least so far this season. But Matt Kenseth, yeah, with the win. Kenny Wallace second despite not leading the lap. He just kind of quietly showed up at the finish. Dale Earnhardt Jr. finishes 3rd. Mark Martin 4th. Clint Bowyer again rounds out the top 5. Aaron Crocker, despite heavy damage, finishes 6th. John Hamilton 7th. Martin Truex Jr. had a good comeback in the second half of the race of his own. He was running outside the top 15 for a large portion of the second half, but that final restart he was able to get back in the top 10, finishing 8th. Tony Raines ends up quietly in 9th, and Lance Trigger rounds out the top 10 tonight. Pole sitter Ryan Newman finished 12th, and we had just 16 cars finish on the lead lap. I'm glad I stayed out of the pits, too, because if I would have pitted during that caution like I was thinking of just to top off on fuel, I probably would have finished 16th. Kenseth deserved that win. Yeah, he dominated. Michael Jourdain Jr. We saw him blow an engine earlier. Lyons DNF, Shields DNF, Marshall DNF, Sweeney DNF, Peterson blew an engine. We saw Bobby Labonte blow an engine. Quite a few engine failures. 7 DNFs total in today's race. I wouldn't doubt that some of them might have DNF because of accidents earlier in the race too. We did see 3 cars flip. I would not doubt that maybe a couple of the fantasy drivers that were in that flip DNF'd. Oh my goodness. Next race is at the Old Spice Speedway. I thought 200 laps was going to be a long race at Old Spice. Now we have a 233 lap race at Old Spice. I didn't realize that was the last fantasy track of the season. I was wondering what race that was. The Dairyland 350 at Old Spice Speedway. It'll be the 3rd and final road course race of the year. That's going to be a long race. Dale Jr. won at Old Spice Speedway earlier this season. He led 126 out of 200 laps. 230, I mean, that's going to be a race of survival too. 233 laps at a road course. Good thing that is, I have time to prep for that one. That's going to be quite a ways away before we get to that race. We gave him 15 points on Clint, if I do my math correctly. Michael Knight, thanks for tuning into the stream. I see you in the chat for the first time there towards the end of the race. Cy Z as well. Gustavo Sobrine, I'm sure you guys were watching throughout there, especially at the finish. Just want to shout you guys out for watching tonight's race. And everybody else who has watched, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you haven't already. 166 points out of first right now is Dale Jr. He needs to pick up, I guess, just 10 more points. I think I gained 25 points on Boyer. I was thinking I gained 15. Oh, I did gain 15, my bad. I gained 15. I guess I needed 25, not 35 on him, if he DNFs. Well, he would have to DNF, and I'd have to win and lead the most laps to gain the 156 points. 349.5 miles on a road course. Old Spice Mirrors, oh my goodness, I hope not. I mean, we raced there earlier this season. I think we only had like 5 cautions in a 200-lap road course race. If we have a Watkins Glen style race, though, where the AI wrecks like every lap, there's no bus stop, though, here. I think that's the big thing. But if they do wreck every lap somehow, that's going to be a long race. And that's going to even add more survival, considering it's probably the longest race of the season and it's on a road course. Alex Bowman Facts, thanks for tuning in. Alex Bowman is subbing to Keegan Schneider. Well, thank you. Just cause Clint to DNF and win the race. I don't want to do it that way. If it's the last lap, anything goes, but other than that, I mean, if I cause an accident, I'll put myself at the tail as I have. Unless I save it, which I didn't. In the first few. I don't know. We'll see. Martin Truex Jr. moved up a spot in points. He's up to 3rd with the top 10. Yaley finished outside the top 10 today. I don't think we're going to get a 1-2 finish for Chase 2 Motorsports. It's going to be tough for either one of them to win the title anyway. But, I mean, Truex is 303 points behind Dale Jr. He's 2 races behind Dale Jr. and he's 3 races out of first on Boyer. Boyer will literally have to DNF the last 3 races. Or 3 out of the last 4 races for Truex to have a shot at the title. So, it is basically just a 2-person race, which I imagine. You know what that reminds me of? I don't know what. It kind of reminded me of Dale Jr. a little bit, but Dale Jr. finished better than 3rd. Or finished worse than 3rd. I think he finished 8th. That's what it reminded me of, personally. It reminded me of the 2011 Coke 600. And I wasn't leading coming off turn 4. I was in 3rd place to begin with and finished 3rd still. Coming down to the point, man. We'll wait it out. I'll wait it out as long as I possibly can. If it takes to Homestead for me to just start bullying him. That's what it'll take. But I want to see this play out naturally as much as possible. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content, everybody. I will see you guys tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard start time. We've got more racing at the Lowe Motor Speedway. I cleaned it up. I obviously could prove that I could run a clean race in the Cup Series tomorrow. At least I'll know what to go for setup-wise. But I think that practice gave me a lot of confidence for tomorrow, though. We'll go Cup Series racing. We are second in points there, so we're going to... I can't remember if I'm second in points or not. I think I am. I think I'm 35 points behind Jeff Gordon right now. Pretty tight battle for the championship in the chase. Just 6 races to go in the chase as well. So, see you guys tomorrow night. Do it for Dale Cup Series action. Again at 6 p.m. Eastern.